Well, greetings, everybody. Welcome once again to the RecPoker podcast. My name is Steve Fredlund, and I'm your host, and we are on episode 154, which is part two of our discussion with Adam Friedman, talking about mixed games. Adam is a three-time WSOP champion, back-to-back mixed game titles, just a beast in both Texas Hold'em as well as all the other mixed games. We are sponsored, as always, by Running Aces, Racetrack, and Casino. Thanks to those guys. And the players of the week for Running Aces, Jeff Jorgensen, again, 28 points, Ray Dickerson, Max Gatke, and Joe Besh. So congratulations to you guys for picking up some bonus tournament lammers. A few things coming up. First of all, the big thing that I want to make sure you're aware of is I am doing an Introduction to Poker Math seminar. So I know we have an audience that's across the board. For those of you who are newer, this seminar is for you. It's really an idea. The idea is to give you a grounding in poker math. You don't need to be a math wizard. We're not going to be doing calculus. But the idea is, how do you use math to help make the best decisions? And the idea is, I'm going to give you the concepts that if you can figure these out, if you can start to apply these on a regular basis, you're going to be able to get about 80% of the way there to really having an advantage over those folks that you play at the bar league and your home games at the smaller buy-in tournaments at the casino. So we're going to spend 2 hours together. I'm going to share some content. We'll have Q&A. We'll have some real-world applications to walk through for 2 hours from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on November 15th or November 19th. Two options. And you can sign up. It's $20 for the seminar, $15 if you are a member of the RecPoker community, and you get access to both nights. So you can attend either one that works for you, or you can attend them both if you want. Just go to rec.poker/seminars, and that'll give you all the information that you need on that deal. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a very affordable price. If that cost is an issue for you, reach out to me. If you want to participate and the cost is an issue, reach out. Let's make it happen. Other things that are coming up quickly, this Wednesday, November 6th, a couple of opportunities at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. We'll be walking through another hand history, talking about defending the big blind with Chris Jones. And then at 8 o'clock, we've got our third monthly online Poker Stars tournament. It's free. Anybody can be a part of that deal. You just got to go to rec.poker, click on home game, and all the information is there for you to sign up and be part of that thing. It's super fun. It's a great time. And we give away 3 copies of the Andrew Brokus book, Playing Optimal Poker, to the top 3 finishers, free of charge. All right, then November 11th, next Monday, Lena Evans and crew from the Poker League of Nations will join us for our interview for the podcast. And this is available. If you are a RecPoker community member, you can sit in on that, ask questions, the whole ball of wax. So participate in that. And then the following Wednesday, November 13th, a couple of other options. We'll be looking at Chapter 5 of our book study. We're going through Andrew Brokus's book right now. That's at 6:30 p.m. And then at 8 p.m., Taylor Moss is going to be walking through some hand history, again with our theme of defending the big blind. NFL Survivor Pool, apparently we have 9 people that are still in this thing, still cranking as we go into Week 10. Make sure you check out our Discord, our membership site. Go to rec.poker for all the information. You can also sign up for our email newsletter, which is probably the best way to stay informed. I do not give away email addresses, so it's a safe way to stay connected with rec.poker, or follow us on Twitter, Facebook, the usual suspects. So with that, we are going to now join part 2 of the discussion we were having with Adam Friedman. Make sure you go back and listen to part 1. Very interesting discussion. I brought some people onto the panel that understand mixed games and play mixed games, because that's not my forte. So we had some great people asking some great questions and some wonderful discussion with Adam, who was gracious enough to give us enough content for a couple of weeks. So some good stuff there. So check it out. And then I'll come back to you at the end of the interview. Thanks.
No limit hold'em.
So what would you say about a player like me, Adam? So I only play No Limit Hold'em. And part of that is part of my rationale, and I'm not bored with it yet, but part of my rationale is, I'm a one-trick pony, but I'm trying to learn this one game. Until I really want to figure out this one game, I want to focus there. I don't want to be distracted by other things. But I've had other people that play mixed games say, yes, but playing mixed games will actually benefit your Hold'em game. And I've yet to kind of give into that. I'd love to know kind of your thoughts. And you touched on it earlier, but what sort of advice would you give to me in that situation?
I mean, the best I don't know. I'm not even really sure the best way to answer that. I mean,
because there's a number of people that are like me. There's a lot of people that are like me that are kind of saying the same thing. Like, I still feel like I'm trying to figure out one game. I don't want to get confused.
I can understand that idea. I don't even deny games come fairly quick to me.
Yeah.
I've told several people, if a new game gets invented tomorrow, you can match me up with anybody in terms of I'll get the game. I'll understand the game about as quick as anybody. I don't know if that's a natural talent, and I don't consider myself a top supreme player by any stretch. But I mean, I just understand. I mean, just in terms of poker, I do understand just what basic concepts are overall. I mean, I just seem to get a feel for how I'm supposed to play pretty tight right away, and eventually I'll pick up spots like, oh, these are pretty good bluffing spots. I'll keep that in mind. I should probably have the best hand in none of the scenarios. So yeah, I admit I can adapt very quickly to new games and new situations and scenarios. But like I said, just like all I'd say is, if there's just find basic knowledge that's out there. For the most part, a game like Limit Hold'em, stuff hasn't really changed too much on Limit Hold'em over the years. There's still easily some like Limit Hold'em books. I'm sure that I assume they're still out there, and probably even some new stuff. But a lot of the basic concepts for the most part don't change too much, especially when you're playing like you said, the lower limits. So all you can do is just go out there and just battle and just you can't be afraid.
Right.
You might lose. And most people are going to lose. I should say just about everybody's going to lose initially when they're playing a new game. The only question is for how long and how quickly they can learn and adapt, and how much are they willing to put in the time to learn. That's all.
So if people like me are out there, if we're not bored with Hold'em, would you still say mixed games would be advantageous to help our game, or is it like?
Absolutely. One of the things that helped my No Limit Hold'em game initially 7-8 years ago was playing the mixed games. I mean, there's some stuff I see I can't even necessarily explain on why something in Stud 8 or better would help me in No Limit Hold'em, like I mentioned earlier, or like I said, Game A would help me in Game C, or Game C will help me in Game G, and so forth. I can't give you a good rhyme or reason. Just there's certain things I see I can't always necessarily explain. So yeah, there are things that will come up. But true, if you love playing No Limit Hold'em or whatever 1 or 2 games you love playing, just play, whatever. Hey, we're all different. You work what's best for you.
Well, I'm trying to decide how much John Somsky is going to be able to leverage his desire for mixed games to pull me into his web of playing mixed games.
It's all part of my plan.
I think it is.
Like I said, you guys from the same town. Just whenever John's playing, just go over and play there one time. I'm sure. You can even watch one time. I'm sure they won't mind you watching once or twice. Like I said, we need to get more blood. We need to get new blood into mixed games.
Yeah. Then John can take my chips in a variety of different ways.
Exactly.
Count me in on that. I'd like to get you into that mixed game web as well, Steve. Let's get it going.
All right. Well, we made it to RecPoker Nation. Okay, you're listening right now. We got a few panelists, some in Minnesota, some not in Minnesota. If you are part of RecPoker Nation, you're looking to get into mixed games and you haven't really gotten into it, shoot us a note. Put a comment on Twitter, Facebook, the YouTube, whatever. Let us know. We can start a little bit of a movement here. And then we can play against Adam Friedman.
That sounds good by me.
Adam's like, okay, thanks for putting me on the spot there.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. No. It wasn't that. I was screwing around with the computer just as you were talking there, and I'm trying to figure out what he just did.
Adam's like, yes, get all these new people together and then come play against me. This will be fantastic. So John, Dave, Rob, any comments, questions?
Okay. All right, good. I got my computer back to normal. Okay, sorry.
John, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think part of what you said, it's one of the biggest differences I notice in mixed games is they have one of the casinos nearby they had a dealer's choice tournament, and they usually had that. It replaces the horse tournament they had once a year. But, it's one of those things, everyone there is having a good time. And for a lot of people, it's the only tournament time of the year they get to play that game in a tournament form because it's the only one that's offered around here.
Yeah.
And it's part of it is because it's limit, so people aren't taking 20 minutes to make their decisions.
Yep.
But it's just the whole atmosphere at the table is generally a lot lighter, a lot more fun. And I don't think I've hardly ever enjoyed tournaments as much as I've enjoyed playing that particular tournament every year.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean that's the one thing we all like. We love the idea that wow, you can play this game in a tournament concept. That happens maybe twice a year for us. I mean, about the only tournaments that I'll play really are the. In fact, I don't even think I played the 1500 this year at the World Series, if I remember correctly. Or maybe I did. I just don't recall. Are the two events of the World Series, and then Matt Savage has a dealer's choice at the end of the. He has a 2K after the main event out in LA, which I think I played once or twice, but usually I'm playing cash afterwards. Usually I'm concentrating on cash games that time of year when I'm in LA. But yeah, I mean you're right. I mean it's when you get the chance to do something that doesn't exist anymore, it's fun. It's so much more fun to be able to get the chance to play. And a lot of people are like I said, people usually are happier playing mixed games than they are No Limit Hold'em, or and people are a little bit happier playing PLO because of the action. But at least compared to No Limit Hold'em, it's night and day.
So let's talk a little bit about strategy stuff, and this is probably a better question for some of the panelists to ask. But give us a little bit of a strategy tip, if you will. Like if you were playing Texas Hold'em, we'd be kind of grilling you on what are some strategic advantages. Are there certain games where obviously at the levels you play, you're not going to be giving anything away about your specific strategy, but for those of us who are newcomers to the game, what are some other sort of strategy tips that we should really be having front of mind? So obviously play less hands in certain situations, those things. But are there any sort of mixed game strategy things that are like, these are core principles to playing some of these games that people are just missing out time and time again?
The one basic concept I would say overall, the one difference between, let's say, a mixed game tournament as opposed to a mixed game cash game, or just any cash game in general, in a cash game, in a lot of ways, you're going for the throat. You're trying to seek out that extra bet. In a tournament, it's more important to try to save a bet than make an extra bet, because you might need that one extra bet later down the line when a hand will come up, and all of a sudden, instead of getting a raising or a hand that's good but not great, you can be out of the tournament. But if you're in a passively where less bets are getting in, you might be able to have one or two extra bets which you can just come back from. I've had a couple stories where I've been able to make a few final tables where I was down to one bet, and all of a sudden I turned that one bet into 3 bets, and I turned that 3 bets into 6 bets, and that 6 bets into 15 bets. I mean, it can happen. You just got to be willing to. You really have to try to minimize loss. You got to be able to save. It's more important to save a bet than make a bet. Is the big difference, the fundamental difference in cash games as opposed to tournaments.
That's good. So how does that manifest itself? More check backs, just sort of not trying to get value on every street with a medium hand kind of stuff?
I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're pretty sure you got the best hand, you got to go for it. I mean, but there are spots where maybe, for example, let's say Limit Hold'em. Let's say you raise the. Let's say you're getting pretty short. Let's say you raise King Jack, and someone 3-bets you, and the flop goes King 6 deuce. All right, you're gonna have the best hand a ton there. But I mean, someone has. But let's say if you just check call, if someone's got Ace King or King Queen, you're saving bets by not getting a raising. And if they have a hand like Ace Queen or 2 9s or something, there are a lot of people are just going to fold when you check raising barrel. So basically, you're not going to be getting a complete value. And this way, at least you save yourself the potential from getting knocked out of a tournament.
That's good.
Yeah. So
one of the follow-up kind of to that strategically, and this applies to No Limit Hold'em, but it might apply to mixed games as well. You can fill us in on that. But this is for a lot of the recreational players that are out there. That one of the knocks on a lot of recreational players is they play too passive, and so then they hear this message of aggressive poker is winning poker, and so they get aggressive, but they're getting aggressive at the wrong times. It's not as calculated as it needs to be. They're just randomly sort of increasing aggression.
Yeah,
I watched you play. Obviously, I covered the MSPT, and I watched you win that event. And I watched this sort of dynamic of you tightening up for a while. Can you hear me? Check. Adam, did we lose you? John,
no, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So I was just going to say, covering the MSPT, I saw these periods of time where you were pretty tight. And then there's periods of time where you're pretty aggressive, and I know that's all strategic and all those things. But maybe talk a little bit about that more broadly in terms of poker and mixed games. This idea of aggressive poker is winning poker, but it has to be strategic.
I mean, there are times like anything else where you're at, and you've got to know when when people are just laying back and you can take advantage of certain spots. But then when people decide, you know what, I'll forget that. I'm gonna start calling this guy more. You got to change your gears accordingly depending on how people are playing you. The tournament that you watched me in, for instance, and this can apply to anything, to any tournament, any game. Like when you were watching me play the MSPT Cleveland tournament, I had a pretty big stack for the most part. But then, I was able to get that spot against the only guy who had me covered with 20 because I knew he was going to do something really random against me, and I couldn't just do some of the stuff I wanted to. But when I was able to get in kings against, was it Jack 9 or Jack 8 preflop for all the chips, essentially, well, not all, but for about 20% of the chips in play, I was able to win that hand. For the most part, I was in cruise control after that. A lot of it was very fortunate that more so than than the previous 1Ks in Cleveland, it was a much more inexperienced final table to where people really wanted to ladder up certain spots, and it was pretty obvious to me. So I was able to basically still at will without even looking at my cards in certain situations. I mean, I was, but it almost didn't matter what I was raising. Where if they did come over that time, they had it every time. It was almost similar that tournament you saw me down in Indiana. I ran to the nuts every single hand at the final table. I had 3 or 4 friends watching. They said, "Literally, Adam, you ran to ace, king, and kings every hand you raised." It was remarkable. Like nobody else was getting 3-bet because nobody ever woke up with a hand. Somehow they always had it against you,
right?
Which is good. I mean, they're playing pretty predictable, but it was just bad luck. I ran on the nuts every hand, and it's going to happen, especially when I'm going to play because I'm looking for every spot when I'm playing with players I think that are less experienced or people that fear me in general.
So is there any difference sort of strategically when you move from like Hold'em, like you're saying, I'm adjusting to the table dynamics and, kind of take what they give you, that sort of thing. Is that same principle applied to all mixed games? I mean, or there's somewhere that's not as big of an issue? Is it pretty much the same principle applies everywhere?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, again, you got to make you got to see what's going on around you. You've got to be very aware of every individual. How the way one person perceives you might be the complete 180 of how somebody else perceives you. Like there's some pros that you guys know. They think I'm a complete nutcase, and there are other players they think I'm the biggest nit that ever lived. Phil Hellmuth has me on one spectrum, and I find it pretty laughable that he thinks it. On what he thinks, for instance. But it's you've got to know how people try to perceive you in general, and go from there. I mean, it's like when I'm playing the mixed game tournament. We're playing for pretty huge bubbles. There are spots you can take advantage of. I want to when I got if I've got the big stack on the table, I want to pick certain games that are going to be much more volatile. People are going to be like, "Oh crap, I don't want to get involved in certain marginal spots." So maybe I'm picking games that are a little bit more volatile, games like Triple Jar, Limit Hold'em, or when I get a little bit shorter, I want to play games that are a little bit tighter, where I'm going to be chopping or chopping certain spots if I'm just playing better hands, or it's going to be pretty hard to get scooped in. So you want to be able to adjust accordingly. Like I said, that's more of a dealer's choice concept, but in general. So you always need to be aware of your table presence and your table image compared to everybody else, and how they perceive you. Like I said, the tournament in Cleveland, you were watching me at the final table. I think any chance I thought I had a shot at raising, I was, because I saw him and look at it afterwards. Like half the time, if I think about it, half the time when there's a break between like a final, like a dinner break and a final table, probably 50% of the time I'll look to see what people have done in the past. In terms, I'll look at their hand and mob results. Right. And it just so happened it was an incredibly inexperienced table overall. In fact, I think the other 9 people combined, if I remember correctly, I don't think they had more than 300,000-400,000 caches combined.
Yeah.
So it was definitely where everybody was playing for their biggest pay. I think, if I'm pretty certain, actually, everybody was definitely playing for their biggest payday ever. I think first place was a little under 120,000, if I remember, maybe a little bit
something
over.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah, give or take a little, or it's right around 120,000. I don't think anybody had ever had a $50,000 score before. So, when people, for instance, like in that scenario, people are like, oh my God, I really have a shot at, 20 and 100,000 is a ton of money. But you can take advantage of people's, being scared for, like, oh man, I really don't want to screw this up. Or look at this. I mean, whereas maybe a lot of the tournaments these guys have played, and maybe first place is, maybe $4,000 or $6,000 or $8,000. Now they're playing for $4,000, $6,000, $8,000 jumps.
Right. Yep.
That's when you haven't done that before, that can be incredibly intimidating. But the fact that I'm noticing that with these players, it means I can do a lot more stuff against them.
Yeah, it means
'Cause
you can do more. You can do more stuff against them, but it also means that they probably have it when they show excessive aggression.
they're more likely to have it. I mean,
Right.
so some people. I mean, obviously everyone's different, but for the most
Right.
part, the average individual in that scenario is more likely to. I mean,
Right.
I guess if I were to, I guess if they ever have a $250,000 mixed game event and someone's willing to put me in, yeah, when the min cash is going to be 500, maybe that tournament will happen 10 years from now, and maybe the first time the min, getting in there is a 500,000. I'm sure I'm going to be playing much more differently. And now I'm playing for 100K, 200K jumps. I'm sure that would have the same concept.
Right.
It's so different when you're playing a higher cash game for the first time. It can be a little intimidating the first time you're playing a bigger limit for the first time.
For sure.
And it's a normal feeling to have.
That's right. I think that's a good point to raise for all of us. Whatever stakes you're playing, whatever jumps are significant to you, that's going to be significant to you. But
of course,
but the question is then, how do you when you internalize that feeling, when you see, okay, what does that look like to have a $300 pay bump and I'm nervous, or a $20,000 pay bump and I'm nervous? Think about what the other players are going through. Are there, whatever game that you're playing, whatever final table you're at, are other players probably feeling the same way that you felt when you first had that experience? And then how do you exploit that?
It's incredibly natural. Now, granted, when I'm playing like the dealer's choice, I mean, for example, of the six of us, I mean, we've all played high stakes cash where we've all had gone through absurd swings to where, I mean, no one's at that level, like, no one's really going to be able to. But even then, there's spots where you are trying. If you're super short, and you're probably not going to win it. I mean, and you're likely not to win it. And we're all honest. It's not like when someone has 20 times as many chips as you in a limit tournament, like let's say first place compared to sixth place. Sixth place isn't really thinking, yeah, I'm going to win this tournament. They're just thinking, all right, how can I maybe how can I ladder in that scenario? Because maybe that is the most optimal spot in that scenario. But in general, all it is everyone has a first. These guys that I played with in the Cleveland tournament, if I think for the most part, maybe one or two guys that played for a spot were first place that much, but they'd never actually, like I said, had that big score. So the next time some of these guys get in that spot, it'll be less intimidating. It'll be less scary. It's no different. Like I said, I've had the shot to play for $1 million one time in a final table, and at the LAPC final table 6 years ago, whatever it was. And for whatever, like I said, I played for a couple 100,000 before, so it was a little bit easier, I guess, of a little transition. It sucked. I never won a hand that day, but that had nothing to do with nerves. I never made a hand, and when I tried stealing, I got 3-bet, and it was one of those days. But yeah, I mean, the first time you're playing for huge, much bigger numbers than you're used to playing, whether it's a cash or tournament, it's natural. It's almost freakish if it doesn't affect you, actually.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, all it is experience, and the first time is usually the toughest. The second time gets a little bit easier. Third time easier after that, and so forth.
Yeah, that's well said. John, did you have something?
Yeah, I had a Badoogie strategy question, actually.
All right.
The biggest issue, I've never figured out what the right way to play it is. If you're dealt a pat mediocre Badoogie, like let's say a queen high, jack high, 10 high Badoogie, you're dealt at pat. What's the right way to play that?
When you get dealt the king Badoogie and queen Badoogies, like an under the gun, 6-7 hand a game, it really is a hold your breath. Go from there. I mean, especially if it's not convertible. Like if you got like the king queen 10-6 as opposed to the king 6-4 ace, where you can break. Those rough Badoogies are very difficult to play. In lower limits, people aren't going to be bluffing at anywhere near as much. So when you raise and they call you and they're drawing 1 or drawing 2, and eventually they raise you, I mean, they're going to nearly have it every time, and you could just almost fold. Whereas occasionally, when you're playing a bit higher, it's not always necessarily the case. And you got to be able to read scenarios specifically well. But again, if you're playing much higher. But for the most part, you want to be trying to play. You want to be drawing as smooth as possible. Usually, you want to be starting out 3 to a 6 or better. Usually, especially from early position. If you're pat, you'd like to be able to have a convertible type hand, or have a 10, or even a jack's all right. Kings and queens are, it's especially when you raise that king or queen, and it gets called, and 3 people are drawing 1, you're pat. You're literally in prayer mode. You're firing that first draw. All right, nobody raised. We're good. And then all of a sudden somebody raises. You're like, oh crap, I'm beat. And you're almost forced into folding. which just sucks. But I mean that can be the danger of playing that hand, especially in early position. In later position, people are going to be opening a little bit wider. People are going to be defending a little bit lighter. So for the most part, it's no different than other game concepts. And limit hold'em. I mean, like especially in limit hold'em, yeah, you're going to raise maybe the 10-9 suited on the button there in the cutoff, no problem. But when you're playing like 9-handed or 10-handed, a lot of the lower limit games, it's not going to be ideal to raise a hand like 10-9 suited in early position. It's pretty. It's just not going to be. It's just not going to be as profitable when you're playing in lower limit in those games, especially because like a limit hold'em, you're playing. If you're raising, you're usually playing 4 or 5-handed. Now, again, when you play higher, limit hold'em, it's never 4 or 5. It's literally heads up 3-handed almost every hand. Obviously rare can't happen, but again, they just don't occur as often. But yeah, you just want to be able to play hands that are either convertibles in early position, or you can have it. You just play accordingly. You just want to put when someone raises, have respect for the raise, and you just got to be able to fold. You got to be able to fold your bad badoogies. Sometimes you're just going to lose, and that's all there is to it.
So basically, you're suggesting you'd still play it, still bet with it, but be prepared to just shut it down or pitch it away, or break it if it's a breakable one.
Yeah, if it's convertible. Yeah, you want to be able to. Yeah, like I mean, if you have a non-convertible, like I said, it's a very difficult hand to play. I mean, as long as they're drawing, you keep firing, and on the last draw, especially when they're out of position, you check them and just pray they don't bet. And
well, that's pretty much how I do it, but it seems to be pretty streaky. I mean, if you're up against one person, I believe a Pat Badoogie is favored against a drawing hand.
Yeah, a King Queen Jack 10 is favored over 1 2 3. It's again, it is the most volatile game of all the limit games. I mean, we all pray to get Badoogie rushes. I remember one time playing in LA about a year and a half ago. I was just getting buried all day. I was stuck about 60 bets, and all of a sudden it's a Friday, and games usually go Monday to Friday. They never go Saturday, Sundays. So I'm like, oh, this is a great way to go to the weekend. I'm going to lose. I'm just getting buried. And all of a sudden I'm playing 3-handed with 2 people who I want to play 3-handed with. And I went on an insane Badoogie rush in 8 hands. I somehow made up 60 bets in 8 hands. Like I made the nut over nut like 3 different times. I think I made a 5 against a 6. I made 2 6s against a 7 in one hand and 8 in another hand. Myself and another guy were pat in another hand. I had a pat 8. He saw I have a worse pat 8. It was just absurd. Badoogie rushes are the greatest. Getting buried in Badoogie might be the worst, though. That's all there is to it. And by the way, I was just able to think right now. 5-card draw high, and I had another game and limit Omaha high. I think those are the other 2. I knew they were high games, limit games. I think that might be 2 of the other 20. So yeah, that would be like I said, that'd be my thought process overall of that.
Excellent.
So, I mean, you really do want to play tight in just about every one of these games in early position. Like deuce 7, have a deuce, it'll help. Stuff like that. So, and like I said, tight really is right in the lower limit games. It really is. It will get the money long term.
Any follow up on that, John, at all? Or are you good?
I am good.
All right. Brian, did you have something? Soja?
Yeah, so I was more just curious more than anything. Typically, when you're playing, limit games, you tend to have less variance than you do in no limit or pot limit games. And so therefore, some of your swings may not be as large as they would if you were going no limit, but just like any other game or anything you do, you're going to have those times when you have downswings. So when you are kind of a mixed game specialist, talk to us about how you handle those downswings. Is game choice come into play as to how you get out of it, or do you just walk away from it, or just overall what's kind of what does it look like for you when you go through a downswing, and how do you get yourself out of it?
Well, unfortunately, in 2019, game selection choices are very limited. Even as recently as 7 or 8 years ago, there'd be a ton of tables you could choose from. So I'm, for the most part, playing with the same pool of players for the most part when I'm out in Vegas or LA. It's just that's the way it is for right now, the poker landscape. I generally have a rule when I lose 50 bet, like when I go to LA for a month or 2 months at a time, When like I said, the games only in LA the games I play only play Monday through Friday normally. But if I lose 50 bets in a day, I tend not to play the following day. I wish I was good enough to where I can just no problem let it go. But usually I'll take a day off and just relax, chill. The game's going to be there the following day, or at least or at least Monday through Friday it is. Me personally, when I have big losses, I'll just take a day off, relax, chill. Usually there's some sporting event I can watch, during the evening or whatever. When I'm out in LA, I'm usually staying in Airbnb in a cool area, so I'll just check out some random sites or whatever. I'll just read whatever I might have brought with me to LA that day. When I'm I rarely ever, I don't really steam much when I play live. It might look like I do. I might be really pissed off, or I might be moping. I guess I could be moping in my chair a little bit, so to speak. But for the most part, when dealing with big losses, I'll take a day off and just go back the following day. It's usually I'd say how I deal with it for the most part, and I've been pretty consistent with that over the years.
Cool. Dave or Rob, did you guys have anything at all? Okay. So I was going to ask you a little bit about, you mentioned some of the cash tournaments. So like, how do you split your time, Adam? In general, I know kind of high level, if you look at kind of the course of a year, like how much of your playing is cash, how much of it's tournaments, and then kind of roughly like how much are you playing? Like how many hours a week do you think on average you play? And I know it varies week to week quite a bit.
Well, I'll put. Let me let me take a glass of water here. My mouth's drying up. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Yeah. I'm just trying to get a feel for, with this, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of tournaments, and you said you only play like 20 Hold'em tournaments. So I'm kind of curious. Would you consider yourself primarily a cash player, or how do you split that time? I'm
still a cash game player above all else. I still haven't been playing a few more tournaments, more so in the last year or so. I mean, I'll go through streaks like that occasionally. I'll say this, for the average professional poker player, I probably play less poker than probably 97, 98% of them. Again, like I said, I've been very good at money management in life, to where I've been able to hold on to a bunch of my money, unlike the majority of the players, to where maybe they have to play 10, 11 months of the year. But when I do go to LA or whatever, I'll usually put in 50, 60 hours every single week, sometimes 70, 80 hours if the games are phenomenal and the games are actually going, but they don't go around the clock anymore like they used to. My typical year the last several years has been, I go to LA during the LAPC every year from late January to early March, anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks on average. I've been doing that for the last 12, 13, 14 years. Then I'd say from about, and then the last couple of years I've been playing the tournament in Cleveland, in the weekend, the second or third weekend in January.
Mm-hmm.
From March until the World Series starts, half the time, maybe I'll do a 1 week trip somewhere randomly to play cat. I mean, I guess maybe I used to go to LA a little more frequently for a week and a half here and there. I haven't been doing that as much the last couple of years. Usually I'll just play any 1K buy-in, 1500 no limit tournament that's within a 2, 3, 4 hour drive of where I'm living out here in Columbus, Ohio. Do that occasionally. I'm trying to think, what if I mean, it's really weird. Outside the World Series, I don't go to Vegas much anymore. In fact, the fact I'm going to Vegas for 4 days in November, I think I've been to Vegas no more than 4 or 5 times total outside the World Series this decade. I actually meant to look that up earlier because I mentioned that to somebody. They didn't think that was true, and I wanted to go through my records and check it up. But yeah, so I usually in the fall, I had some personal stuff going on, so I couldn't do it this year. Usually in the fall, I'll go to LA for about anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, either straight, or I'll break it up, maybe 1 month here, 1 month later on. And then when I'm usually doing these trips, for instance, usually I'll add on an MSPT tournament when I can. So, so I'm going to Vegas and LA afterwards for a few weeks, just to play cash. And there's one tournament I want to play for the Poker Masters in November. But since it's on the way out there, it's only one extra flight. So I'm going to play the MSPT tournament in Iowa next weekend. Which I'm looking forward to playing.
Very cool.
And then I just go through stretches where I typically don't play as much. This year was so weird. I played a lot after the World Series, which I can't even think the last time that happens. But normally I don't play from the minute I leave Vegas, the middle of July. I usually don't play until September. So usually I take about 6 weeks off then or so. Usually from Thanksgiving until about the first week or so, that's about 6-7 weeks. I don't normally play in that spot. Again, I think I'm actually going to travel in December, which I almost never do. I think I did 2 years ago, just because I had a buddy who was running a places to say, you can come stay with me for free in Manhattan Beach. Okay, sure, I'm out. I'm on my way out there. He says, "Yeah, my family doesn't come out for. I got this place for 6 weeks. My family doesn't come out for another 2 weeks." I'm like, all right, you got me. Just let me buy dinner a couple times. We're good to go. He's like, sure. So that's exactly why I'm having you come out here. So he's basically counting me like buying a meal.
And so it sounds like when you're not playing, you're not necessarily actively studying the game. You're sort of taking the downtime.
I've told people over the years, some people laugh at me when I told them this. My way of studying, as dumb as it sounds, if I've got like some movie or some television show on Netflix or something I'm watching, I have a hard time for whatever reason just keeping the attention the entire time unless the movie or show is fantastic. I run hands out, as weird as that sounds, and I just see what hands play what, and I do it all different games. I probably do that on average for about 30 minutes every single day.
What do you mean run hands out with a physical deck of cards, or what do you mean?
With a physical deck of cards, and I just run it out. I mean, usually like right now, like I turned the baseball game off because there's no way I'd be able to concentrate on this and watch at the same time right now.
Right.
So the truth is, I know it was 2-2 in the bottom of the first. I don't know what the score is now. I don't want to know.
All these spoilers.
I don't want. Oh, you DVR'd the baseball game?
That's okay. Yeah, I was recording it, but that's okay. You only gave me the first inning. That's okay.
Yeah, it was 2-2. That's all I know. Sorry. Like I turned the TV off. I haven't even looked at it on my cell phone since, which is pretty remarkable. But yeah, so I mean, so usually when I'm doing that, I'm running hands out and just I'm watching in between pitches or whatever. I just run hands.
Yep.
I don't recommend. Most people aren't going to be able to learn that way. I seem to be able to, and I see certain concepts like, that's interesting. And it's goofy, but it's always worked for me, and I don't think it would work for probably 98% of people if I were to guess.
Well,
I could be completely off.
What I love about that is you're saying this is what works for me.
I might be disconnected.
Nope. Can you hear me now? Check. Can you hear me now?
Are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Check. 1, 2. Can you hear me? John, Rob, Dave, can you guys hear me? Is it?
I'm there. I can hear you now. It keeps saying my internet connection is unstable. That's odd.
At least it's your internet connection. It's not you that's unstable.
Okay, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, well, no. What I like about that is saying this is what works for me, and I think that's the core. That's a core thing for all of us players who are trying to get better. Is figure out what works for you. What's your learning style? Is it watching videos? Is it talking about hands with friends? Is it running physical decks of cards? I mean, whatever it is, I think that's the key. And I think so many of us just sort of accept by default what we're supposed to do to learn the game rather than saying, what's the best way for me to learn the game, and then being consistent and doing that. That's what I like about that. I
mean, I'll say this. Usually a lot of the players I play with, if I got a random question, for the most part, everyone will answer. For the most part, we're pretty friendly like that. Like we're all trying to kill each other, but usually if there's a question we have, we'll ask each other. For whatever reason, I don't know why. Like everyone was asking, like some of the best players in the world, they were asking me about certain specific study hands a lot this year during the World Series, which is cool, and I had no problems answering it. Yeah. But whenever I have questions about games where I know they're better, and like I know one guy who I consider one of the 3 or 4 best limit hold'em players in the world, I'll ask him some very cool type questions that I might not be able to figure out for myself, and he'll just answer them for me, like no problem. No, you don't need to divulge who that is, but can I just ask you one question? Is it somebody who's on this panel right now? I'm looking at him. No, I'm just kidding. Very good. I know we're getting close to time. I got a couple more questions as we wrap up, but Dave, John, Rob, Brian, do you guys have any other questions you want to ask before we wrap up here? Do you mind if I introduce? I'm pretty sure we've met before, but do you mind if I introduce myself to you in Iowa next week? Sure. Yeah, you're gonna be in Iowa. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. What was your name again? I'm sorry. Just so I remember. It's Brian Soja, Soja. Soja. Okay. And there's a very high probability that he'll have a New England Patriots Tom Brady jersey on. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that out loud? Well, if I have the fortune to make it to day 2 again, I'll for sure have a red one on. But if I'm on Friday or Saturday, usually I pick one day to wear a blue one, and otherwise something else. But I know, Adam. It's a pain point for us. His Twitter handle is MNPatsFan. It's very difficult. Yeah. Well, I mean, like the last time I was in Iowa, it hurt. I went to the Ohio State Iowa game and we lost by like 500. I went to the Iowa game. I came back and I promptly blew 2 buy-ins over the next hour and a half when I was there. You're on tilt. So, yeah, I was on life tilt. No, I was on life tilt. I ran on the nuts like both times. Whatever happens. Yeah. Come up to me. We'll talk for a little bit.
So Brian was, I think, a multiple-time winner of the nicest guy in poker in Minnesota, or something like that. I don't know what you won, but we got a couple pretty nice guys here on the panel, so you'll enjoy hanging out with Brian. Well, let's a couple of questions as we wrap up here. Now, Adam, I haven't seen you out there, but maybe I'm just missing it. Are you doing anything with coaching or writing, or do you have anything else in the poker business world, or is it pretty much just playing?
I just play.
I just play. You don't do any coaching of any kind?
I've thought about doing it over the years. I think I taught I taught a couple of things at the local club once.
Yeah,
I did a couple things for No Limit Hold'em maybe 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it was. Beyond that, I haven't really done any. True, if I were to do it, I know what some of my friends charge for one-on-one tutoring coaching. But if I were to do it, I prefer to do it in person. But the people in Columbus are not going to pay what I would want to charge.
Right.
So,
I just wanted to make sure we gave you a shout out in case you were doing something like that. Maybe it's we could talk about doing a group coaching thing that makes it a little more affordable. But I just want to make sure you got a shout out if you were doing anything with that.
No. I'm just, like I said, I'm just playing. And like I said, when you see in Iowa, if you got you want to ask me a couple of questions, I'm willing to answer. I got no problems with that. So
very cool.
I tend to be. I think I'm pretty decent with that overall. So.
And if people want to connect with you, people are like, man, I kind of enjoyed that. I know you're on Twitter. Or what's the best way for people to follow you or connect with you that are interested in that?
It's weird. I keep trying to make it a point to be on Twitter less and less. All social media in general.
Okay, so Adam Friedman is not on Twitter. I'm going to tell you guys right now.
No. I am. I am. I don't always see my notifications for whatever reason.
Right.
When my name is brought up, but if I guess if I find a question I find fairly interesting, maybe once in a blue moon, I answer those questions, but I will say the majority of the time I tend not to. I don't know why I do or why I don't in certain occasions,
sure.
But if you ever see me, just come up to me. I promise I'm not scary. No, just joking. No, I just whatever. Just come up to me, and as long as I'm not in the middle of a hand or anything, that's all I would ever ask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I enjoyed hanging out with you a little bit in Cleveland and Indiana. Fun to get to know you a little bit, see your game style, see how you approach the game. And I know you're not, out there like all these other big names, promoting yourself all over the place, doing all kinds of stuff. So that's why I loved having you on, because some of the other folks are eager to come on because they're trying to promote this, that, or the other. And that's great. I mean, they're great interviews. For you don't really have a vested interest in coming on here. You're not trying to sell something. And so that's why, even to a greater level, I appreciate you taking the time, because you have nothing other than just sort of goodwill and giving back to the poker community to come on here. And so that's why I really appreciated you saying yes to doing this.
I was glad to do this. I thought this would be interesting to do. I'd never done anything like this. Half the time it's just to see if there's something new or interesting I can try or do. I thought this was fun.
Good, man. Well,
I enjoyed this.
Good. Well, thank you again, and good luck on all your sports, your dinners that you're trying to win in your sporting events over the World Series and such. But guys, any last words from any of you guys? Otherwise, we'll let Adam go here. It looks like I'm seeing nothing, so we'll just let you go, Adam. Man, thank you so much. If you have any questions, follow-ups, or whatever, just get in touch with me. Otherwise, we'll be back in touch and see if we can do this again sometime.
All right. Well, again, thank you for having me, and I hope you guys hope I was able to help out a little bit. And I think this is really cool what you guys do here on RecPoker. Actually, I look forward to seeing how this thing progresses as the years go on here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Hopefully the conversation helps. I think it's going to fuel me. Hopefully, it'll help fuel other people to build up the prize pools for you in the mixed games.
Well, like I said, I mean, it's baby steps. Don't be in a rush to move up.
Right.
Eventually, like I said, it's like anything else. When you start playing, you'll get more hours and you get more comfortable. And then you start winning. Don't be afraid to take a step up and try maybe a bigger game. Maybe if you fly out to, Vegas with the boys or the family, and you see a slightly bigger game, you take a shot in a slightly bigger game. It's no different than anything else. It's it's trial and error half the time. I mean, as much as and that's really what poker is. Trial and error. Be willing to learn and cut down on your ego. You got to be, you'd have confidence, but you got to live in the realm of reality.
Love it. All right. Well, with those great last words, we'll let you go. And everybody, thanks to the panel for jumping on here. Thanks to Adam, and we will chat with you guys later.
All right. Well, thank you once again to Adam Friedman. Thank you to the panel. Reminder, we've got the Intro to Poker Math Seminar, November 15th and 19th, $20, $15 if you're a community member. You can choose from either night or do both, 8 o'clock p.m., covering kind of the essentials, the essential principles of poker math, an area that a lot of people have been asking me about. I have a math background, but this is really focused on the principles and applying those and trying to figure out how do we use math to make optimal decisions. That's what it's about. Also, we got a few things coming up. November 6th, this Wednesday, Hand History with Chris Jones. If you're a community member, you can participate in that conversation. And then open to the public at 8 o'clock is our online Poker Stars home game. It's a blast. Go to rec.poker, click on home game, and get the information there. Coming up November 11th, interview with Lena Evans and a few others from the Poker League of Nations. November 13th, Chapter 5 of the book study. Also November 13th, Hand History with Taylor Moss, looking at defending the big blind. So a lot of great stuff coming up. Stay plugged in. Sign up for the newsletter. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, all the stuff. Also, one thing I rarely mention, I should mention it probably more often, is we'd love to have you go out and rate, and review the podcast. So go out wherever you get your podcasts and just shoot us a note out there, rate us, review us. That stuff helps build the exposure to the podcast, which we appreciate as we continue to grow in this thing. But thanks to Running Aces Racetrack and Casino, our official sponsor for the third year in a row. Thanks to them, and thanks to Adam Friedman and our panelists. And we will chat with you next week.